We are still in this crack-up room. The money printing continues. You see all the balance sheets of the central banks all over the world continue to explode. There is no solution anywhere. As you rightly said just before, the inflation numbers continue to rise. There's no way out of this mess anymore.
Here at Liberty in Finance, we're licensed brokers with Miles Franklin. We are standing by the inventory, ready to make sure you get what you need, even into the wee hours of night and on weekends, because preparedness doesn't stop. Call us 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237.
Hey everyone, this is Elijah K. Johnson with Liberty in Finance. And back with us today is our good friend Florian Grummes from Midas Touch Consulting. Florian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Elijah, good to see you again. Thanks so much for having me.
It's great to have you. And I wanted to get an update on the gold and silver markets to begin with. We're seeing a bit of a bounce here. And really this whole week, we've seen quite a bounce as we record this on February 10th on Thursday. So your perspective on what we're seeing right now, we are seeing precious metals rise amid the inflation numbers here in the US of 7.5%, the highest we've seen so far. So
crazy numbers. Yes, gold nicely moving higher over the last few days. Actually, since mid of December already, we had a final low, a classic final low around the Fed announcement in mid of December. And since then, gold has been moving higher. It's been not an easy way higher, I would say, because we've been running already against this 1850 resistance. And there is kind of like a downtrend line in that area. And then we've seen this sharp sell-off. I think 3 days in gold fell like a stone for 3 days. And then now another run against this resistance zone. So I like the fact that gold has been rather resilient over the last few days. So whenever, even today, same thing, whenever it's been beaten down, it quickly recovers, coming back. And now we're attacking this triangle resistance, actually, the triangle in the making since, I think, 16 months nearly. So it looks like gold actually wants to break out of this triangle. And that obviously would be a bullish, very bullish case, because these triangle formations usually are consolidation patterns. And in this case, it could be a symmetrical triangle. If gold breaks out, you will likely see a sharp move higher. And that could actually take us within a few weeks, I think at least 1900, probably more likely 1950 until early spring, if that happens. And right now, the daily chart is not overbought yet, so there is still some room, I would say. As I said, I see this resilient character intraday in the gold market, and the weekly chart is rather neutral right now. So actually, it looks pretty promising, I would say. And seasonality is also positive for gold until spring. I mean, at least until end of February. We've seen gold rallies into March, April, and May, even until June sometimes. So, yeah, I think there is some reason to be optimistic. However, we are in this big correction consolidation pattern since August 2020, and we've been a number of times at such a pivot point where we basically try to become hopeful and optimistic, and then somehow gold fell back quickly. So I think we really need to see that gold is making this breakout, and then we would have, I guess, space or room to run until 1950 over the next few weeks.
It seems like, at least right now, people are optimistic when it comes to the pandemic. It seems like, well, maybe the pandemic is coming to an end, or it can be managed from here on out, and this could be bullish for the markets. What is your perspective if we do see some sort of black swan event with respect to anything with respect to the pandemic, and how that might impact the markets going forward?
No, I think the pandemic is somehow over. I think the narrative is rather imploding here step by step. But the question, of course, is if the Fed continues. So far, it's been only cheap talk, right, about tapering and hiking. They haven't done anything yet. The market has become very afraid of it. The tech stocks started to correct quite severely, actually. And if this continues, we could see a black swan just by the fact that the Fed is hiking too fast. And this idea that now everything and everybody is opening up again, economy is going to boom. I'm not sure if this is really going to happen. I think the lockdowns over the last 2 years have destroyed quite a lot in the worldwide economy. And we have still a lot of supply issues going on. And as you rightly said, inflation is high. So I'm not sure if there's actually a strong economic recovery ahead of us. I think people will be very happy if they can go back to normal, but we will figure out sooner than later that many companies are probably bankrupt. So we could also be in for some more trouble. And if the Fed is raising too fast, they actually could really create a disaster. I think they are already on the way to, we know this from years already, they're creating disasters, but it's now getting really serious. I'm not sure if they will manage this. And let's see. The markets are weak. We've seen some of the big tech stocks crushing, imploding kind of. We see even, technically speaking, Pfizer is a head and shoulders pattern. If this breaks down, stock could easily slide down, let's say 25% from here, easily. And at the same time, gold looks pretty good. If you remember November the 9th, 2020, 14 months ago, the day when Pfizer announced the vaccine, gold went down $150. So if this thing is changing now, and Pfizer came out with very mixed or disappointing numbers yesterday, and there is a few other things going on, then maybe gold is really ready to run back to this $1,950 level where it was in November 2020. So there is actually quite a few black swans out there. I'm not afraid of the war in Ukraine. I think this is completely overdone. I don't think that Putin will attack. They're just trying to. He's trying to bring himself in a good position for negotiations. But I'm worried about the economy and I think we're gonna wake up in a very weird society in the next few months, realizing that many things went completely wrong over the last 2 years.
And if we do see that, right now, since the beginning of the year, we have seen quite a bit of a pullback in the major stock market indices. Do you see that continuing then because of just the aftermath of all the everything we've seen in the last couple of years from the pandemic and the restrictions based on that?
Yeah, it could be if public confidence is really struggling, or if what I see coming here, it could be really a black swan in terms of the breakdown of public confidence into the big companies, and that would be obviously good for gold and probably also good for Bitcoin at some point. But it will be a very weird society in which we're living in, and I'm not sure if the Fed will come in time to save the market and the society, if they even still are able to do it. So it's a very, very weird setup out there, I have to say. But sticking to your physical gold and silver, I think it's certainly the right approach in these times, and holding some Bitcoin as well. I'm staying away from the stock market. Yes, from a sentiment perspective, we've seen very extreme pessimism over the last 2 weeks. I think the smart and dump money indicator was at extremes. So if everything goes well, we might see a stock market bottom here and then a recovery. But let's see. I have the feeling something is broken in the market.
It definitely does seem like something is broken in the market. And as you mentioned, so much confidence in so many institutions right now have in the last few years have really, the confidence has been broken. So you mentioned how, if you hold precious metals, I mean, you don't have to have confidence in any institution. If you just hold precious metals in your hand, it's something that you can trust in because you know you have it. If you can hold it in your hand, you know you own it.
Exactly. That's the beauty about it. There's no third-party risk as long as you hold it in your own hands, or at least with some really trustworthy partners when it comes to storaging. And the same is true for Bitcoin. So that's why I and Midas Touch Consulting, we've been focusing on those two asset classes for years and years already. I mean, not in my wildest dreams I could have seen such a scenario, what we're talking about now, the consequences of those last 2 years. But here we are, and it is, again, the only answer, because unfortunately, the character traits of mankind are always the same, and there are unfortunately always bad guys, bad people, driven by egoistic thoughts and the fear of not having enough, of feeling separated from the universe and from mankind, right? Because there would be enough for everybody on this planet, but too many people are focusing on the physical separation.
You mentioned how cryptocurrency and Bitcoin in particular is kind of an alternative. It's something outside the financial system. Some people do have their doubts, though, because it still is electronic and it's very complicated so it's hard for the average person to really understand what it is. So can you expand on that? Why do you have confidence that cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin, are going to weather the storm ahead, right? Why do you think people will have confidence in that ahead? And why do you have confidence in cryptocurrency?
Well, I mean, I obviously developed it over the years, and the best way to develop it is always take your hands on and do it and try, And I started with $50 and did it a few times, buying for $50. And once I realized it works, once I started sending small amounts from one wallet to another, realizing there was no central banker involved, there was no other entity than the internet involved. It was a decentralized peer-to-peer exchange. And once I've seen this in a few transactions with small amounts of money, so I was relaxed, obviously, couldn't lose a big amount, couldn't make a big mistake. And once I did this a few times, then my interest grew and my confidence also. And now I'm extremely confident that Bitcoin is here to stay. It's a decentralized asset that there's so many thousands of computers involved in the network, and you cannot shut it down anymore, especially last year when China banned Bitcoin mining. I mean, this was probably the biggest test ever. And yes, the number of wallets went down. Yes, some of the miners in China had to sell their coins to liquidate, to be able to pay for their operations and move to a different country. So we've seen a sell-off, pressure on the price, but this was 2 months. And then afterwards, the network continued beautifully. Actually, it was a stress test, and Bitcoin, the Bitcoin network survived and managed it very well. It never went down. And now we've seen it again early this year with Kazakhstan, when the government basically shut down the internet. And we also know that in Kazakhstan there's a lot of Bitcoin mining, or has been a lot of Bitcoin mining going on. And again, yes, we've seen prices falling for a few days. No doubt it was a severe pullback, but in the end of the day, the network continued because it's decentralized. It doesn't matter if one country is off the grid. And now we see even more and more Bitcoin miners moving to Texas, getting support by even the politicians over there. And it is electronic money. It is, I think, a much easier way to do payments and business with Bitcoin than with gold. Gold has some advantages when it comes to, you don't need electricity, you don't need internet, you don't leave any traces. And that's why I also like still a lot precious metals. And I always said that it's both of them together. It's like the traditional analog, old school, old fashioned precious metals that have been there for 5,000 years. And it's this new technology, Bitcoin, which we have only since 12, 13 years, but which has clearly been the best performing asset over those last 12, 13 years. And still, we are not there yet that we can talk of a mass adoption. And I think we are very close to it. And now with what we've seen with the banning in Canada, where they collected all this money for the freedom movement, and you have one more reason to understand that we need something like Bitcoin, where people from all over the world can send their money peer-to-peer, unstoppable. No politician can say, stop, we don't like this, you cannot get the money. And it's much easier than sending a gram of gold somewhere, right? So I think there is a place for both. That's also something that I've been saying for many years. You want to hold gold and Bitcoin. I think they complement each other. And I never understood this discussion, Bitcoin versus gold. I think I even said it in your show here, that if those two parties or those two camps would actually stick together and work together and help each other, we would be much further ahead already in the fight for sound money and for freedom. So I think you want to hold both. And it's actually this beautiful combination. You have something analog and you have something digital. It's perfect.
I think that's so interesting. Yeah. And a lot of people have mentioned how the whole cryptocurrency movement, I guess you could say, has brought a lot of people to the understanding of sound money and brought a lot of people to the precious metal sector. As we look at how the Bitcoin price has been playing out the last few months, we did see a major pullback, but we're now seeing a rally again. Do you think we are on an uptrend right now, or do you think we still have further to the downside?
Yeah, it's a very tricky question right now. I have to be very honest. I have not been calling a bear market or a crypto winter so far. I've been a little bit surprised by the depth of the pullback in that started in November, but it's just 2 months ago that we've seen, or let's say 2.5 months, but that we've seen new all-time highs in Bitcoin, right? And then we had this severe pullback, and I think it was mainly due to the rout in the tech stocks, and that pulled basically Bitcoin also down. And it's been a nice bounce. We have to see how far this goes. I wouldn't be surprised if this just continues, at least for the next few days and weeks. I think we go at least back to 50,000. The sentiment was too bearish, too negative just a few days ago. So at the low when was it, 24th of January, 23rd of January, something like this, when Bitcoin hit bottom at 33,500, the fear and greed index was at the lowest level I've ever seen. So there was an indication that we would get a nice bounce. And there's so many people that shorted Bitcoin, I'm sure, over the last few weeks. So they are all covering now. And you've seen this fast, sharp move higher over the last 2 weeks is already an indication to me that this was, first of all, a short squeeze. So I think this still has legs. The 200-day moving average is around about 49,000, and then 50,000 is a psychological number. There's another resistance line. So yeah, I'd say at least 50, maybe 55,000 is what I see. And then I have to see how the pullback that we get from there is behaving. And if it can hold up well, I think the bull market simply continues. If Bitcoin quickly shows weakness again, then I would be a little bit more cautious. And this, I think, is all connected. What are the stock markets are doing? How fast is the Fed really trying to raise rates? And are they really starting to taper? Or if they make a step back and actually the market is realizing that the Fed has been bluffing all the time, then you're going to see Bitcoin quickly at new all-time highs, I believe. So, and the same then probably is also true for gold, because we are still in this cracker boom. The money printing continues. You see all the balance sheets of the central banks all over the world continue to explode. There is no solution anywhere. As you rightly said just before, the inflation numbers continue to rise. There's no way out of this mess anymore. So it's just short-term volatility, crazy moves. But in the end of the day, the trend is still up. I think even in all markets. But let's see how the tech stocks behaving.
All right. Well, Florian, really appreciate your time today and all your insights. If our viewers are interested in learning more, where can they find you? And do you have any last thoughts you'd like to add?
Yeah, thanks for having me again. And viewers can find me at midastouch-consulting.com. We have free research. Actually, we have daily calls when it comes to gold and silver and Bitcoin. We have free weekly chart books. We have a nice Telegram channel. And I think we are a very important moment of history. I think we're all living through history right now. And I'm very happy and grateful to see that the freedom movement is gaining steam. More and more people waking up to the fact that freedom is not a given. It has to be is a fight that we have to do for. Of course, we want to do it peacefully, but in the history of mankind, always people had to fight for their freedom, and we are at that point again. And I can just encourage everybody to do so. And I think using sound money, precious metals, and also Bitcoin is one part of that freedom movement.
Fantastic. Well, Florian, once again, thank you so much for your time, and God bless.
Thank you. God bless you, Elijah.
Miles Franklin Precious Metals is one of America's oldest and most trusted bullion dealers. Miles Franklin is A+ rated and accredited by the Better Business Bureau, licensed and bonded, and has 0 complaints ever registered. Here at Liberty and Finance, we are licensed brokers with Miles Franklin. To order, simply call us, discuss your needs, and we will let you know our live inventory, prices, and availability, and lock in your order over the phone. Once your order is locked, the price is held for you regardless of market fluctuations, and the metals are reserved for you awaiting your settled payment. Within 1 business day of ordering, you will receive an email invoice detailing the order and payment instructions. Miles Franklin accepts payments by bank wire, ACH or electronic check, money order, check mailed priority mail, and cryptocurrency. The fastest forms of payment are bank wire and cryptocurrency. Upon settled payment, metals will ship out within 3 to 5 business days. You will receive tracking information via email. Domestic shipping charges are $15 for any order under 500 ounces of silver or 10 ounces of gold. For orders larger than that, domestic shipping is free. The package will be double boxed, fully insured, and labeled discreetly, with no indication of the contents inside. For your privacy, the name Miles Franklin will not even be on the package. To talk to myself, Elijah, my brother Kaiser, or my father Dunnigan, call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237.